Hello and welcome back to That FPL Show. Today we're going to be previewing Game Week 9. I'm joined by my good friend Jack, and unfortunately Danny can't be with us today as he is feeling a bit under the weather.
Yeah, very unfortunate news about Danny. But me and Rodion, we're bringing sexy back in the words of JT. Looking forward to previewing these games with you, Rod.
It's going to be interesting. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, man, let's jump straight into it. What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about some of the moves we're making in advance of Game Week 9?
I think, let's just look into what we're going to be doing into Game Week 9, who we're going to be captaining, who we're going to be bringing in, and just kind of sum up our team for the viewers.
Okay, I'm a United fan, Rod, and I've made a very bold statement straight away. I've taken out Ronaldo and I've taken out Nelson Semedo. I've replaced Cristiano Ronaldo with Gabriel Jesus. For me, I think Jesus is going to come back into the City side, and if he doesn't, I'll bring back Duffy to play against Manchester City, which doesn't sound great. Now I'm thinking about it, but anyway, I'm doing it. For me, Ronaldo is unfortunate. I don't think he's lost it. Obviously, he's not the player he once was, but I still think he's top level player. I just think the fact how United play, they don't really look to break teams down. They don't have a consistent style to where he can build on. He's in the graveyard shift at the moment. People are complaining about Martial. They say, we need a number 9, we need a number 9. Got a number 9, and now it's like he's doing the same job as Martial because they don't get no service. So I brought in Jesus and I took out Semedo, and I've made a bold move because they're playing against United, Rod, but now I've got Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold at the back.
That's interesting. So have you taken any hits, or is that just 2 free transfers?
2 free transfers, and I'm looking at saving another 2. So I can potentially look to take out Lukaku, because for me, I just don't think he's... I don't know, something's not right with him at the moment. I think he will come good towards, maybe February time, but at the moment, I just don't think he's in great form.
I think you've been brave there in making those decisions, especially with the Champions League to play and going. But I see how you're going ahead of the curve, looking to avoid price rises, price falls. So that's interesting. But with me, I've got my eyes focused on today's games and tomorrow's, and who plays, who doesn't play, and I've got a couple decisions in mind. I think I'll be looking to, if Rudiger plays today, I'll be looking to see how long he plays, if he's injured, etc. And I'll also be keeping an eye on Alonso, because I'm really a big fan of Chilwell at the moment. He's on this hot bout of form, and I think if Alonso plays tonight, that essentially locks in Chilwell for the weekend against Norwich. But I'm also kind of looking at Townsend, bringing him in for Conor Gallagher. I don't know, watching Gallagher yesterday, I think they gave him man of the match, but I thought he was I thought he played well, he had a good performance, but he just didn't seem to create much. And I don't know, I like having exciting players on the bench, and I don't know, Townsend this year, he just seems to have formed a great partnership with Benitez, and he seems to be playing the football of his life. So I am looking at that. I'll also be keeping an eye on City, who I think play today, because I've got Diaz and Cancelo in mind to see if they will play on the weekend against Brighton, because we know what Pep's like. He might play Cancelo today and then Zinchenko on the weekend, or he might bench Diaz and play Ake. So it's going to be interesting. And like you said, in terms of captaincy as well,
this is the hard choice for me this week.
I am quite a fixtures over form guy, but you just can't look past Salah. And usually this would be an easy decision for me, but because Lukaku has been so poor, I don't know if I'm going to captain him, but at the same time, they've got Norwich, who are the worst outfit in the Premier League. And Salah has United, which Salah's in the form of his life, and United are not. So, what's your thoughts? Who are you looking to captain?
I like that how you go. Yeah, I'm a form over. I'm a fucking fixture over form guy. Well, I feel like personally, I'm more of a form over fixture guy. But I think I'm gonna go. See, I want to captain Salah because then it's a win-win for me. Because then if United win, I'm happy. But then if Salah goes and scores, I can go like, well, at least I've got him in my fantasy team. But I'm actually looking towards Lukaku. I just think Chelsea against Norwich. I don't actually think Chelsea have been in great run of form, especially since they came off the defeat to Juve. They just haven't looked like the same team. I think they struggled against Liverpool, but I thought they played well. Yeah, and against City, they just really didn't turn up. I think some of the selections he's been making have been quite interesting. We haven't been seeing much of Mason Mount or Havertz, I don't think so. Well, especially together, the trio of Lukaku, Mount and Havertz. I feel like that's their most, interesting and successful three at the moment, where, they allow the 2 10s next to Lukaku for him to lay the ball off, and they look to go wide with either Alonso, Chilwell and Reece James on the other side. But I am leaning towards Lukaku this week just because of the fact it is against Norwich, and surely they've got to find some form at some point.
You'd imagine so, but I don't know. That is the good thing about this game week. There are a few options with who, especially if you have maybe a City player, you might go for them, who you can captain. So it will kind of spread it out. But if you just look at how well Salah's done so far this year, you can imagine there are going to be millions of people captaining him. But then hopefully he does share it with Lukaku. So this could be a game week to climb up the rankings.
Yeah, and in terms of City players, it's hard because we don't know who City are going to play. But they've got a pretty favourable fixture against Brighton, even though it's away. I do think that they are, the much heavier favoured side. Is it worth maybe looking at one of their players? I'm not too sure. The other man I would say to look at, even though I'm not too big of a fan of the fixture, is Harry Kane. Now he's got one. Once he gets one, he normally starts to get rolling. And I think he's been playing well despite the fact he hasn't been getting goals in the past few games. I think before that he was looking a bit, moody, upset. But now I think he's starting to come into his own. And even though they've got West Ham away 2:00 on a Sunday, I do think that not only is he worth a punt at bringing in, but potentially he's even worth captaining.
I think with Harry Kane, now that he is off the mark, he could now fly off the rails and keep scoring. And the partnership with Son is formidable, and as we know, Kane's the captain. He's on penalties. He's just scored. His confidence probably has shot up. He could be an option to look at, especially if you are looking to maybe get rid of Ronaldo, and if you already have Lukaku, or
and that's
to get a Spurs backer in.
Yeah, that's a good point you said there about Ronaldo, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at bringing out Ronaldo. I don't think it's so much, as I said before, that to do with him. It's more to do with the team and the coaching staff. But as long as OLE is playing the way he's playing, or he's at the club, I don't think a lot of people are going to be wanting to look at Ronaldo. I still think he's going to get quite a few goals. It's just the fact that, the inconsistency of United against certain teams, they could turn up this weekend and batter Liverpool. But it's just so hard to predict because of, how they play against shit teams. I said the other week when they was coming up against Leicester, we said how Leicester have been poor, and I said that's better for them because the poorer you are, the better it is against United, it seems to be. But I think with Ronaldo coming out of people's teams, Kane is definitely worth a look. Not too sure on the Spurs fixtures at the moment, Rod, but when he comes into form, it's not just the goals with Kane you've got to be looking out for, it's the assists, because him and Salah always tend to have a really good connection. The fixtures coming up for Spurs are West Ham, then United, then Everton, Leeds, Burnley. So maybe if you look at bringing him in, after maybe the Everton game, then they've got Leeds, Burnley, Brentford, Norwich, Brighton, Leicester. That's a pretty decent run for them. And I think Kane is going to, I just don't think he's going to have a shit season. He's been so consistent for so long. I just can't see it stopping now.
I think you're completely right, where form is temporary and class is permanent, and Harry Kane is class. But looking at who we're looking to ship out from our fantasy teams, or just for teams in general, is I just want to start on one. At time of recording, which is midday at Tuesday, Abdoulaye Doucouré has had 50,000 transfers in, and he is owned by 8% of managers. And I've just checked my Twitter news feed, and suffered a suspected broken metatarsal. So that does rule him out for a long period of time. And for me, he has been one of Everton's best players. I know me and you were talking about it not long ago. He's a bit of a Yaya Touré regen.
The old Yaya Touré.
Indeed, and he's been a brilliant player for Everton, and him and Alan in that midfield have been absolutely outstanding. So I think that is a big loss for them, and I can imagine a lot of people aren't going to have seen this news yet, so his transfers will keep coming in. But that's one definitely ship out if you have him. As I imagine it's going to be at least a couple of months with a broken metatarsal.
Yeah, that's the one Beckham broke, isn't it? In the foot.
I think so.
I think it's quite a tricky one to come back from because obviously you're playing football. If it was like Rashford came back from really bad injuries last year just because, it wasn't necessarily his legs or his feet, and he's playing through the pain. But, the fact that it is a foot injury, he's going to be out for quite a while, and it does really put me in doubt for Everton players in general. I think the fact that they've got Doucouré next to an Allen, it's kind of like the perfect mashup. It's like sweet and sour. Do you know what I mean? They just go together so well. Whereas, who are they going to bring in now? Are they going to bring in Andre Gomes? Are they going to bring in Tom Davies? Are they even going to switch the system up? You're not too sure. Obviously, I've got Damari Gray in at the moment, but I might even look at shipping him out depending on the form of Everton. But the one for me I'm looking to ship out, Rod, is actually going to be... I'm torn between getting rid of Ben Rama at the moment, just because I brought him in because he's on a bit of a hot run, and so are West Ham, but they seem to be mellowing out a bit now. I'm going to keep Antonio for the meanwhile because he still looks like a decent goal scorer. But it's that sort of area of the pitch, the midfield, I feel like I'm struggling with at the moment. I've got Salah, but I need to bring someone else in. I need to, I could probably do shoring up my defence a bit as well. So maybe if I do look to get rid of Lukaku and Ben Rama in a couple of game weeks, I could, strengthen my squad across the field.
I think I managed to, luckily, ship Ben Rama when he kind of came off the boil, where I shipped him after that United game where it was a questionable goal that he scored, that they had gifted him, and somehow he managed to claim all 3 points. And then after that, I was a bit unsure because we know West Ham have got games coming thick and fast in the Europa League, and they have got Vlasic on the bench, Yarmolenko. They've got players who can consistently play. So I'd look to ship him there. And since then, I don't think he's just had three pointers. So I haven't really missed out. And
they're a bit like United, Manchester United, in the fact that they've got some real tough fixtures coming up. They've got Tottenham followed by Villa. Then they've got Liverpool, Wolves, City, Brighton, Chelsea. Followed Burnley and Arsenal. They haven't got it easy, coming up to game week 17. So, the next 8 game weeks is going to be really hard for them, I feel like. So maybe it is worth, taking out some of those West Ham players, even an Antonio, maybe looking to bring in someone like maybe a Brian Mbeumo. I know who you've got. He's been, I think he's been looking really good. I don't think he's the most clinical finisher, but he does get quite a few chances for Brighton. The other players I'd be looking to get rid of would be United players. I just think their run of form is so tricky at the moment, and looking at that Leicester performance, I don't see him getting too much better, to be honest with you, Rod. I think if you've got someone like a Luke Shaw, United have been really poor at the back this year. They haven't been able to keep a clean sheet with Rafael Varane, let alone without him. Mcguire's looking off the boil because of his injury. It's a real tricky time, to pick your team. I've personally got no Manchester United players in my team anymore. And that's rare because I normally at least have one, someone like a Rashford or someone like that. And if I was going for a player at United, I would be looking at someone like Rashford, someone who's direct in behind, because I think they're going to be under the cosh a bit in these next few games. And I think their only outlet is going to be a ball in behind.
And touching on United players, you've got a lot of hard fixtures that are coming up, and I feel like people just coming off the wild card or played their wild card 2 weeks ago, I think a lot of them would have shipped their United assets in. I think the most popular 3 were Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo. So, I'd be looking to ship. With Antonio, I have got a lot of value kept in Antonio. Obviously, I've had him from the start, and I believe he's increased over 0.6. And if I was to sell him now, I sell him for 7.8, and if I was to buy him back, I'm buying him back for 8.1. So that's a lot of value, and we know what Antonio's hamstrings are like, so that could be one to think about. And
with the fixtures as well.
The Europa League coming up, it's going to be interesting to see how they manage his minutes, and West Ham are definitely one to look out for in terms of dropping players potentially in the future.
Yeah, and what teams would you be looking at bringing in necessarily? Would it be, like your Chelsea's, who have got a really easy run at the moment, maybe City as well, and Liverpool?
I think the only team That's what I'm a bit stuck on, because I have got 2 free transfers and no one's really coming out to me right now. I don't see anyone, and I'm like,
no one's coming out.
No one's popping out on the screen for me, and bar maybe Chilwell, but we know what Tuchel roulette's like. He'll play Chilwell maybe for a couple games and then end up playing Alonso, because Alonso at the start of the year was brilliant and he's just been dropped, and since then he hasn't really looked back. And with City, once again, you don't know who's going to play. Like, I really like Foden as a pick, but with Pep, you can't predict it. So I don't know. If you were to look at anyone, I really couldn't tell you, because.
So what would you say? Get the bench loaded at the moment. Maybe look towards a bench boost week, because you're going to need those players if you are looking towards the bigger teams.
I think I'm saving bench boost for the double game weeks, potentially triple game weeks, where players are going to play. But right now, on my bench, I've got 3 bench players which will play. So while they're not the most exciting of picks, they are picks that can do things. And today, as it stands, what are we, midday Tuesday, I have got Gallagher and Buemo and Douglas Luiz on the bench. So they are players who can score points. And I think having a strong bench, especially coming up to the Christmas period, is vital, because we know the games do come thick and fast. Yeah,
and that's true. Should we talk about some of the upcoming fixtures now, Rod?
I think, that's definitely.
Yeah, man. Let's start with your boys then. They're going up against Arsenal at the Emirates, 8:00 on Friday.
So I'm a pessimistic Villa fan, and watching that game yesterday, that's perfectly set up for Arsenal to slap us 3-0 on Friday. Whereas, admittedly, Dean Smith's record against Mikel Arteta is 100%. We haven't lost against them yet. I think the way we beat Arsenal is what we did to United and Chelsea, where we press as a team and go at them. Because watching it yesterday, the way Palace scored both their goals was their CDMs got dispossessed for both goals. So if we press Partey, we press Lokonga, I feel like they've got a big mistake in them. So I want us to win, but I want us to revert back to a 4-back, a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2. The 5, it just hasn't been working. Like, I get it against the big teams when you need more in midfield or you need more in defence, it works. But against the smaller teams, against the teams where we can have more in attack, I think we need to. But if I give you a score prediction, I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I do disagree a bit, though. I do like what you said about the back 4. I think it would give you a lot more freedom to bring in, players like Leon Bailey, have maybe Watkins on one side, Buendia in the middle with Ings at top, which would be really nice. I do just think, though, you have a stronger midfield than Arsenal at the moment. I think McGinn could run the show in this one. I think you'll look to press Arsenal quite high. I don't think you're going to give them much respect. But on the other hand, if you do give them a lot of respect, let them keep hold of the ball a lot, they could really undo you. But I do see one coming on. Sorry. I do see you coming on top in this one. I think you could, potentially look towards yourself getting a 2-1 result.
Just quickly touching on what you just said about McGinn, I think you're completely right. I feel like if McGinn is in Partey's face or Lokonga's face, they're going to struggle. And we know McGinn's energy is ruthless. He will fight for every ball and he'll dictate play, hopefully. So I want us to win, but I'm just a pessimistic Villa fan and I see him beating us.
Yeah, McGinn's the sort of player I'm really shocked he's never been linked with Liverpool. For me, he is I feel like Klopp would just love him in that midfield. He's got a bit of everything they've got. He's defensively sound, he's got really good energy. Going forward, it's not his strongest suit, I'd say, but he's definitely capable of it. I think he'd really suit Liverpool down to the ground. But moving on to Chelsea against Norwich now, it's the half-time kickoff. A bit of a boring game, I think, for the early kickoff. It's not going to be very competitive, I don't think, anyway. I think Chelsea are really going to, I just don't see Norwich getting forward much. See them being, drove back and not getting out of their box. See Chelsea coming away with a 4-0 victory here, Rod.
I think this is this is a game which probably will be one-sided, and you'd imagine Chelsea at home, they should kind of dominate. But we saw Chelsea at home against Southampton not long ago, and they struggled. But I can see this game. It's difficult because midweek fixtures, they could be a little tired. We have seen teams on the weekend following the Champions League a bit tired. But yeah, I'll go for a 2-0 Chelsea. I don't think it's going to be a particularly great game.
Yeah, they're playing on the Wednesday as well, Chelsea, and then they've got the early kickoff.
I know Klopp's not too cool, but Klopp does like to complain about when they have the early kickoff. So
yeah,
players fair out.
Yeah, I might have to change my captain choice now. You said that, Rod, because I remember that wise guy said something once.
Although he proved me completely, we proved him wrong on Saturday where we captained Mo Salah and Mo Salah hauled.
Yeah,
Andy unfortunately wasn't right this time round.
Yeah, but I think that there's a good point you really made there about the midweek game and then coming into this half-time against Norwich, even though I don't think Norwich are the toughest of opponents. We'll move on anyway. Crystal Palace against Newcastle, 3:00 kickoff at Selhurst Park. How do you see this one going, Rod?
This is a game you feel that Newcastle have to get a result from, because this is a team which could potentially... I can't see Palace sneaking into the top half of the league this year. I see him being stable, maybe 12th, 13th. But this is one of the lesser teams in the Premier League, so you expect Newcastle to give it a good go. But I do feel like if Zaha is back for Palace, I do feel like Palace will win, but I don't think it will be a convincing win. Because we know Newcastle need to apply some sort of pressure now to try and get out of the battle. But I see it going 2-1 Palace, and it's at Selhurst Park, so the crowd will be with them.
Yeah, well, Palace currently 2 points behind you. They're in 14th, you're in 13th at the moment in the league table. I've been really impressed with Palace so far. I'm really impressed with some of their signings. I'm a big fan of, is it Olise or Olse?
Yeah, brilliant.
Olise from Reading, wasn't it?
He got Young Player of the Year last year.
Yeah. And Edouard from Celtic looks like he can be a real good player. And then you got to think as well, next year we're going to have Eze back as well, and he's an absolute fucking baller. I think they're in a position where they can finally say, okay, Zaha, you can go to Spurs or something like that. But yeah, I think you're right saying Newcastle, this is the sort of game where they need to, get a result, maybe even a draw. But I just don't see them getting it. I could see Palace potentially 3-0. Moving on to Everton against Watford now. How do you see this one going, Rod?
So I'm just on the fantasy app and look while we look at the fixtures, and I think this has to be some sort of error because it's showing Everton versus Watford on TV, even though it's a 3:00 game, which
it's saying that on mine as well, mate. Yeah,
which is simply not allowed. So that must just be an error on FPL's part, but I feel like Everton probably will and should win this against a poor Watford side. I see it being 2-0 Everton, but missing Doucouré is huge. And like you said, it's going to be interesting to see whether they do play Tom Davis or Andre Gomez. And I've also just heard that he's expected to be back in 6 to 7 weeks, Doucouré. So yeah, that's a big loss, especially as we approach Christmas.
Yeah, and the fixture congestion, especially when he's back as well. Yeah, I actually see Watford getting something in this game. I'm not sure if DCL and Richarlison are back for this one. I don't think they are, but if they are, it could change my mind. But I think Ranieri had a tough start, but now he gets the new manager bounce. The Liverpool game was a fluke. Well, not a fluke, but it was a bit of what's it called when you send in into slaughter basically. I think Watford maybe with a 2-1 victory here. Dennis goal and Foster, really good goalkeeping performance I'm going to go for. And then we've got Leeds Wolves, Rod, Elland Road at 3:00. I think this game is where Leeds need to actually get something from this game because they're in shocking form at the moment. I just don't know if they can. And, Wolves, they needed the wake-up call against Villa, but they came back and they kept fighting towards the end. I can see Wolves, beating Leeds here again, even though it's at Ellen Road. I think maybe 2-1 Wolves, even 2-0. I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves. I just think Leeds have looked real shoddy going forward at the moment.
I think this is an even clash. This is a difficult game for Leeds, I must admit, because Wolves have looked good this year and Leeds have looked poor. It'd be interesting to see if Patrick Bamford is back. I can imagine Rafinha's back. Hopefully Calvin Phillips is back for them, but I think if they do lose this, there are going to be serious questions asked, because I'm not saying it's an easy game, but if they don't put up a fight, because I said it against Southampton, this is a game they should be putting up a fight and probably winning. But if they don't put up a fight and lose to Wolves, I do think there are going to be some questions asked about Leeds. So I do see it just going to Wolves, and I'd say it being 2-1. Yeah.
Talking about Southampton as well, Rod, they've got Burnley at 3 o'clock. I think this is a real good fixture for Southampton. I think they're growing into the season. I think a lot of people, including myself, expected them to be pretty shit this year. But I think it's taken time, but I think they're starting to come together now as a team. Obviously, they lost quite a chunk of their squad, like Vestergaardings. But I'm really intrigued by some of their players. I think some of them are stepping up as well. I think Gineppo's actually had a really underrated start to the season. Not in terms of fantasy-wise, I don't think he's been like this player who's going to get you so many points in fantasy, but football's not really fantasy, it's football. I think he's created quite a few chances for Southampton, especially going forward. I think he was a bit unlucky in the Newcastle game, where he should have probably had a couple goals, but I think Gineppo, I think he's having a great season, as well as Livramento as well. And their midfield, I know they're missing Ward-Prowse at the moment. I don't know when he's coming back, but Romu and Ward-Prowse has always been a solid pairing, and Diallo, who's coming in now at the moment, he looks like a real good young player. I'm going to go with Southampton to win this game. I think it's going to be quite hard because of the way Burnley set up, but maybe 1-2, 2-1 Southampton.
I think this is, when you think about 3 o'clock games, you think about a game like this. And I think teams have to be looking at Newcastle, Burnley and Norwich and this is where we have to get 3 points. And
yeah,
you just touched on Gineppo, and for me, I don't rate him one bit. He seems he seems a bit of a dodgy Yannick Bolasie. I think he's got some raw talent, but he never convinces me, and I just don't particularly rate him, and I never have. But I think they benched Armstrong last game and brought in this Albanian Broja, and
the Albanian.
Yeah, he's Albanian, and
this guy I thought was called Borja.
I thought it was, and then I looked, it's like Broja or something like that, and I thought he was
Brojo, mate. That is a sick name if it was Brojo. Yeah, Broja. Yeah, he was really good. I think he should have squared it to Redmond though towards the end of the last game. But like you said, yeah, I thought he's pretty solid.
I do think this is a game though Southampton should be winning, especially being at home, and it's a long way for Burnley to travel as well. So I imagine they'll be travelling the night before. But I can see it going Southampton. I don't see it being convincing, so I'm going to go for 1-0.
Okay, fair enough. Brighton against City at 5:30.
Brighton this year have really surprised me. They have an average squad, but they
have a great manager, the football hipster god, Graham Potter.
Coaching has been brilliant, and they're such a well-drilled side. And I think last year, actually, they did beat Man City 1-0. I can't remember if that was the home leg or the away leg. So I don't think it is going to be easy for City. But you'd imagine that City, this is a game they'll be looking at and they're like, we should win this. We have to win this. Although Brighton have had a solid start on 15 points. And I think they're in the top 4 if I'm correct. And
they should be.
It's on TV, so...
this will be the Sky game. I did check the Everton Watford game. Definitely isn't on TV at 3 o'clock. But yeah, they are in 4th, and it is on TV.
Yeah, I also did a check on that, and that has to be a flaw on their behalf because you're not allowed to show 3 p.m. games. But
which is completely backwards. Yeah.
I see not Palace. I see Manchester City winning 2-1 against Brighton, but I don't think it's going to be an easy win at all. Do you think Brighton are going to put up a fight?
I don't know why. I always go with my feels, I never go with logic says City dominate the ball. They probably have between 80 and 70% possession, and they just create way more chances, probably beat them, 3-1 or something like that. But the feels are telling me Graham Potter's going to pull something out of the bag. I wonder if Basuma's been loaned out again from Prison FC, Rod. That'd be interesting. I just feel like Brighton are going to get something.
That is what surprised me. You just touching on that, where he was on the bench in the last game, which I didn't think was allowed. But
yeah, but I didn't think it was allowed either. Next thing we know, Furlan Mendy will be back. Oh, not Furlan. What's his name? Benjamin Mendy will be back at City, playing against each other. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Brighton. Maybe Brighton 2-1 late on. Malpay, and then he goes and does the crying celebration and wins shithouse of the week. Moving on to Super Sunday, Rod. Brentford against Leicester, 2:00 kickoff. I think this is a real good game.
I do think this, when we talk about Super Sunday, we talk about games like this, and for me, this is going to be a good game. Two well-drilled sides, attacking sides. Brentford are at home, so they probably do have the slight advantage, but Leicester coming off a brilliant win against Manchester United and Brentford coming off a brilliant performance against Chelsea, it's set up to be a cracker.
Yeah, it is.
I do see it being a draw. I'm not going to lie to you. I see it being 2-2. How are you seeing it?
Yeah, I actually I favour Brentford in it for some reason. I did think Leicester were good and deserved the win against United, but I think most people have been good and deserved the win against United this season. I think Brentford have been, really fun side to watch. They're not your average team. They play a unique way. They have a great manager. They got some real interesting players. I like how they go with the big man, little man with Mbeumo and Tony. I just think they've got too much for Leicester going forward. I think, they like to get people in the box. I'm a big fan of Norgard as well. I think he's a great player for them. Yeah, I'm going to go with Brentford. Brentford 1-0.
That's interesting. Then I think next we have West Ham Tottenham, which a London derby, and I remember it was actually yesterday on this day, where it was an absolute cracker between West Ham and Tottenham, where Lanzini equalised very late on with an absolute banger.
What a game. You got me in my feels now. I remember watching that one. That was sick.
Where it was a Bale masterclass, and then West Ham turned up with about 20, 30 minutes to go and equalised late on with Lanzini. So I do think this is going to be a good game. I think West Ham probably are the slightly better team this year compared to Tottenham, but I think it has all the ingredients to be a brilliant game. So I am going to go for a draw again, but I'm going to go for a 3-3 draw.
Yeah, I actually think this game's going to be a real interesting game as well. I haven't gone for too many draws. I don't even think I've gone for a draw, so it's going to be an insane weekend of football if my predictions come off right. I think this could be quite a high-scoring game as well, Rod. I think both sides have got really good attacking players. Look at West Ham, Bowen. I think he's been put in a real good shift recently for West Ham. Especially he could have got the goal the other day as well if it wasn't, and then Souček with the rebound. But yeah, going off a bit of a tangent there, I just think Spurs, I think Kane's coming back into form. I think we're going to get a Kane hat-trick here. Maybe not Kane hat-trick, maybe Kane 2 goals and 1 assist to Son. I think it's going to be 3-2 Spurs.
And then moving on to the game which I'm looking forward to the most apart from Villa, and that is Manchester United-Liverpool, who have a fierce rivalry, and I'd probably say this rivalry outweighs your rivalry with Man City. Would that be right?
Yeah, I don't think the United against City rivalry is just they're not relevant enough to care that much. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool have always been the team. Growing up, it's especially where we're from, where it's like, there's not too much football. Most people are either United or Liverpool fans, and it's always been torn down the middle. I just think, it's just a horrible game, man. It's always been a horrible game to watch as well. It's always like real tense, and I hate United Liverpool games, man. They, I look forward to them, but this time I'm definitely not looking forward for it. The form that we're in,
and I'd have to completely agree with you. Usually, I feel like it'll be a neck and neck game, but I do feel like Liverpool just have the class to outmuscle you this way around.
Yeah,
and you are at home though, so that will definitely play towards your skill set. But if I had to go with it, I'm going to go for a thrilling game. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 Liverpool. And I do feel like if you lose midweek to Atalanta, you lose to Liverpool, I think a lot of people are going to be questioning Ollie's head.
Man, I think a lot of people are already. I think he's proved he's not got the capabilities to manage a job of this thing, but it's always going to be the same thing. People go, Ollie out, Ollie out, Ollie out. It's Glazers out first. When you get the Glazers out of the club, then, we got to get Ollie out as well, don't get me wrong. This team is just like, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like an apple. It looks real nice on the inside, on the outside, we've got great players and stuff like that. And, the core of the club is rotten. The Glazers have ruined this. I'm just don't think anyone can stop Liverpool at the moment, and the only thing that's just going to stop Liverpool this season is the African Cup of Nations. That's how I feel at the moment. I think the United challenge is already over, to be honest. I think we would have had to brought in a manager in the international break just gone for us to even have a chance. I could see Liverpool. I don't think they're going to batter us because it's never that sort of game. But I'd probably say Liverpool 2-1, if I'm being honest. But obviously, it's going to break my heart if that happens. But yeah, I'll go Liverpool 2-1.
I think just saying that, I get that you think you might be out of the title race, and I probably do have to agree, but we know that football is a funny game and anything can happen, so you never know.
We can dream.
If we were just to touch on the last thing of today's show, and if we were to just discuss our joint Manchester United Liverpool current 11, and we'll go one by one and just say a pick, and if we agree, then we can move on to the next one. If we disagree, then we give the player we think and our reasoning behind it. So if you want to start,
can I just ask you, what formation are we going with? Are we going to go with the Liverpool 4-3-3 or the United 4-2-3-1, or should we just go with the Liverpool 4-3-3? But if we wanted to put a Cam in the centre mid role, we could.
Indeed, yeah, we'll go 4-3-3. So we have attack. 3 midfielders and then 4 defenders, and we can put anyone in those positions, and it doesn't really have to correlate where they play actually.
Okay, man. First of all, if I get to go first, I'm going to go with De Gea, man. I know it's probably going to be quite controversial. I actually think his form at the moment's insane. I think he was man of the match the other day against Leicester, and he conceded 4 goals. You can't say that very often.
I was just thinking about this before while you were talking about the Manchester United game, and I was thinking it is close, but I think form this year, I think De Gea has been brilliant, and with Alisson's defence in front of him, I don't really think he's been tested as much. So I think going off current form, especially this year, I will say De Gea, but yeah. Yeah,
moving to right back, is it first?
Yeah, right back, I think there's only one choice. I think you've got to go with Trent.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka! No. Yeah, I go with Trent. I know everyone goes, it's a cop-out saying he's not as good defensively. I'm just saying he's not as good defensively as Wan-Bissaka. But as an overall footballing player, what he can do on the ball, what he can offer a team, yeah, he'd definitely be my pick as well.
100%. First centre-back, I think, is clear.
Yeah, Harry Mcguire and Rafael Varane. Nah. Can we just do as a pairing? I'd just go Varane and Van Dijk.
I was actually discussing this yesterday with someone, and I do completely agree with you. I think Van Dijk and Varane, although we haven't seen as much of Varane yet as I would have wanted to, but going off what he's won, and
we know, man. Like, even when you've seen him at United, he does look sick, man. He's been I think when he's played, he's probably been one of our best players. Not very hard to do, but definitely, I think he's been quality. Left back, Rod.
I think Andy Robertson.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Robertson's. I think the thing he's got on Shaw is I think Shaw sometimes loses his head a bit too much, and he dives into challenges. Knowing he's going to get sent off. Not necessarily sent off, but knowing it's the wrong challenge, and I think sometimes positionally he can be caught out. I think it's close. I think Robbo's definitely a better defensive player out of the two. I think it's close going forward now. I wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago, but I'd say Luke Shaw's definitely closed the gap on him, if not gone ahead of him attacking wise. But I'd say I'll go with Robbo, man.
I think it's important as well that this year, especially in the Premier League, we're like disregarding the Euros here, but in the Premier League, I don't think Luke Shaw's been on the game that he was towards the end of last year and what he was in the Euros. So I think if we are literally just going off current, I think we've got to go Robertson.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I just think it's been hard for Luke Shaw as well, just because of how the season has started for United. They haven't really got started well defensively, but I think Robbo's pretty much clear.
Midfielders are going to be an interesting one here.
Should we go one at a time? Should we go...
Yeah, we'll go one at a time.
Go on then. CDM, I don't think it's really up for debate. I think it's Fabinho, without a doubt. I think his reading of the game is really good. He's always positionally well. I don't think he's the quickest player, but he reads the game quite well. And the other thing I like about him, he tends to he's got that knack of making a lot of fouls, but never getting yellow carded. Do you know what I mean?
I completely agree with you. It has to be Fabinho, and what you just said about that is he breaks up the play well, and he's a good passer, and he is literally just coming into his prime. Like, he's just turned 27, so I think Liverpool have got a brilliant player on their hands. So yeah, Fabinho, I'm with you there.
Yeah, and should we go for more of like a midfielder now, like the right centre mid?
Yeah.
Well, if we're going off form, like, I think it'd be hard. It's hard to put in Pogba, because if we're going off actual quality of player, I'd go Pogba and Fernandes, but I don't think Pogba's form as a midfielder in the Premier League recently has been enough to probably put him up there. On the Liverpool side, they've had a bit of problem in midfield. They've been playing with Harvey Elliott, James Milner, Jordan Henderson's come back. It's quite a hard one in the midfield for me. How do you see it?
I was literally just stuck there between. In my head, I was thinking player-wise Pogba, but Henderson as well. And if I did have to go for one, I think I probably would go for
Henderson.
I think Henderson, yeah, going off this year.
Yeah, I'm down to go with Henderson. This is the thing for me. Henderson is kind of like Kane. I think Kane was a real good player back in the day. Obviously, I didn't get to see much of him. I've mostly seen from what I was a kid back in the day, on old video cassettes and stuff like that. But the thing which Henderson has over a lot of players is his character, as Brendan Rodgers. He's got great character. He's got a real good fighting spirit. He's a great captain. I think that's what probably would put him in my team, because on quality, like the quality of player, he is nowhere near a Pogba. Like, when they're on top form, he's nowhere near a Pogba, right? But his character and his captaincy wise, he's probably got to be in this team. And the other one, I'd have to go Bruno Fernandes. I don't think he's had necessarily a great start to the season, but I just don't think there's anyone else to really challenge him, Rod.
I think I do completely agree with you there, in where we know what Bruno Fernandes can bring attacking wise, where I completely agree with you. The other spot does have to go to Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, should we move on to our forwards? I think it's pretty easy to put in. I think it is Greenwood, Sancho and Ronaldo, right?
I think like.
Now, I think if we're going off form alone, I think you'd have to go Salah, number one. I wouldn't put Greenwood in. I know you would probably put Greenwood in. I just don't think his form's been good enough. Like, we don't even have to discuss Salah. Like, he's probably off form right now. He's the best player in the world, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's the other two. And for me, like, it's a question of whether you go Greenwood and Mane, or Mane and Man United. Doing it off current form is so hard because, like, the players who they are, like, it shouldn't. I don't think Mane should be in it if it was going off the players who they are, because I don't rate Mane as highly as I think he. God, it sounds racist when you say it. He's a great athlete, just because he's black, but he is a really superb athlete. He's super explosive off the sprint. He's very good technically on the ball as well. I just don't think he always makes the greatest like decisions. I think him and Salah's almost got a rivalry, which sometimes, you know, does get in the way of some goals that they probably could have. For me, I don't know. How do you have it, Rob? Because I'm really stuck on this.
I've got a couple combinations in my head, but if I had to go for one, I'm probably going to go for Ronaldo and Mane. I think Mane on that wing, the way he plays, for me, he has been a bit poor in the last couple of years, but I don't like Greenwood out on the like wide, and Mane, we know he's a talisman for Liverpool out there, and he's brilliant on that left side. So I'm going to go for Mane, and we know what Ronaldo's, his finishing's brilliant. It's just a thing of current form, and like people are probably going to like say, oh, you know, he did get Player of the Month last year, probably Player of the Month last month. Sorry, I don't think he deserved it, maybe, but you know, people are going to go, oh, he's doing nothing at the moment. He's playing striker for United. They don't have fuck all to do. They could literally sit on the sideline and read a book in the 2 hours of the bloody game because there's no service to him. So it probably is fair to go Ronaldo because to be honest, off form right now, you could probably say Firmino, but I'll probably go Ronaldo and Mane. I think if United were playing like top form, I think Sancho would be in over Mane. Just because I think I really like, you know, when the team's playing shit, so you're not getting to see the best out of him, but he has shown some like moments of brilliance. I'm a big fan of Sancho so far. Obviously, I'd like to see him get a bit more game time and, you know, see the team play a bit better with him in it. But yeah, I'd probably go Mane and Ronaldo. I think Mane's been brilliant so far this. Well, especially since the international break, this last game, you know, his runs, everything about him. You know, if he was a bit more clinical as well, I think there'd be no question about it. But yeah, I'm down to go Ronaldo and Mane, bro. I think so, and I think that wraps up our discussion of the upcoming fixtures and what we think is going to happen. And it's been a pleasure discussing it with you, and I'm excited for this, to be fair, this week of football where we've got the Champions League, the Europa League, which I probably won't watch, and then obviously the Premier League, which is always an exciting time.
It's sick when it's like this, where you get Monday Night Football, Tuesday Champions League, Wednesday Champions League, Thursday Europa League, and then we get Friday Night Football as well. Yes. To kick off the weekend. Yeah, it's a brilliant week. Thoroughly enjoyed talking with you, Rod.
I think 100%, and I look forward to our discussion next week where hopefully we will be a bit happier about our clubs.
I doubt it. I think you might be. I think you're going to batter. I think you might batter Arsenal, but I think we're in for a rude awakening, man. Yeah, but thoroughly enjoyed it, Rod. You know, if you did enjoy the show, guys, if anyone's actually watching, please do leave a like, a comment below if you want to see anything, and please be sure to hit that subscribe button. It would mean a great deal to us. Thanks for talking with me again, Rod.
No problem at all, and I will see you shortly.
Yeah, I'll see you shortly. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.